Tape recorder's running, right? Tape recorder's running.
Steve Smith.
Bret Star.
How you doing, man?
Doing great.
Our producer's not with us today, so we can say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, and this is gonna be terrible. We're gonna plumb new depths in this podcast. So if you want some bad podcasting, stay tuned because it's about to come right at you.
So Dana, when you're cutting this later in post, don't cut out everything. All right?
Yeah,
don't cut out everything. How's your weekend?
Sorry about all the face palms. Hey, it was a good weekend. I went to a dog park / bar that just opened in my neighborhood. My dog ran around like a fool, had a couple beers and watched him.
Yep.
That was a nice time. And then I've joined this is a very old man / dad thing to do. I've joined a vintage baseball league, which by that, it means we play with 1860s rules. So we wear like dumb costumes and you don't have a glove. And it's basically like live action role playing meets Field of Dreams. So we had some games on Saturday, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna bring it up if you didn't. Did you get your uniforms yet?
Yeah, that looks great. I mean, I
awesome.
look like a complete dork. It's fantastic, and we play on the field in St. Louis where the first baseball game was ever played. So that's kind of cool. It's a lot of fun. The keeping score is kind of a loose thing. People aren't quite sure what it is, but everyone just goes out there and has a good time. So
that
it's
is
a lot
awesome.
of fun.
Do you have pictures? You're gonna have to send some pictures.
I'll get some pictures. I deliberately did not take any pictures. I'm told that they did not have mobile phones in the 1860s, so I was trying to keep it period legit.
Yeah.
But I might be able to do some time travel and get some pictures and then come back.
Yeah, I want to upload some pictures so people see what this looks like. Sounds awesome. Speaking of live action role playing, we went to the Renaissance Festival, our Renaissance Festival in North Texas. It's called Scarborough Fair. This was the 41st year that's been going on. And Jennifer and I have gone because we're total geeks every year since we moved here from Boston. So this was our, 15th year or something like that. And Bonnie's 11 and Jack is 7. And they've gone every year of their life except the 1 year during the pandemic when they didn't have it. And so that's what we did this weekend. It was fun.
So what we might ought to do is, because I know that you have Renaissance Fair regalia that you wear. Maybe we should do a podcast where you wear your regalia, your tunic, all of that thing, and I'll wear my uniform.
Deal. Okay. I need a couple. I need a couple of weeks to put it together because I haven't worn my costume in a long time. And there's parts of it in like different storage facilities to protect, so it's like you don't want to put all the senators on one plane. You want to break up your awesome costume into different storage units. All right, man. Well, got a couple of topics today. You've been crunching the numbers for Q1 of 2022 in terms of work tech investment. And I think it was pretty surprising, and would love to talk about that. But also, what companies in work tech who are selling work tech should really be thinking about. So why don't we start with the numbers? What's going on? This is early edition, right? Because you're going to publish this stuff when?
Yeah, we'll have a little teaser in the newsletter on this coming Friday, but. The full analysis will be going on in our new newsletter, Work Fund Monthly, that is put together by our own Brandon Giella. And so the top-down thorough analysis will be in that newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for that, do yourself a favor, sign up for that now.
Work Fund Weekly. So we have 3
Work Fund Monthly.
I'm sorry. Work Fund Monthly.
We have 3 newsletters. Right.
Yeah. So one is Work Fund Monthly. And that's where this stuff is going to be going now, right? Like all the financial crunching. And, of course, there's Work Tech Weekly, which is the original. And then Lance Hahn writes Work Leader Weekly, which is focused on practitioners and work leaders. And you can subscribe for all of those newsletters on our website, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Handy form. Just email address, boom, you're done.
First reported here, first to market. What are the numbers for Q1? Quarterly work tech investment.
It's there's a lot of good news here, but let's cut to the headline that is probably the apparent bad news is Q4 of last year was the biggest quarter for WorkTech investment ever, almost $11 billion. Mm-hmm. That number was going to be hard to beat, and Q1 did not beat it. It was only, I put only in quotation marks, $8.4 billion.
A mere $8.4 billion with a B.
So down $2.5 billion, quarter over quarter. So,
well, not quarter over quarter, quarter to quarter, right? So it was 10
quarter to quarter.
Yeah. It was $11 billion in Q4 and then $8.4 billion in Q1 of 2022. And, to be fair, I'm looking at the numbers now. And this is, since say 2019, let's just look at the last few years. This is the first time in a few years that Q1 was not bigger than the previous Q4. And so
correct.
In Q4 of 2019, we went from 1.5 billion to 2 billion in Q1 of 2020. Q4 of 2020 was 3 billion, and then we went to 4.4 billion in Q1 2021. And so this is the first drop in several years from Q4 to Q1. But what do the numbers say about Q1 2022 versus Q1 2021?
They were dramatically higher. So, yeah, you're right. We are coming off of, this is the first down quarter that we've had in the past 9 quarters. So we had 8 consecutive quarters of growth. But when you look at the year over year, Q1 of this year's 8.4 billion is up from last Q1, which was a little under 4.4 billion. So almost $4 billion more this Q1 versus last Q1. Yeah. And across the board, whether you're looking at average deal value, number of deals, there's higher deal volume, average deal size went up. Lots of good news in that department. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, are you a quarter over quarter person, or are you like, previous quarters kind of trailing stuff? You said something interesting, because I look at this and I'm like, this is huge. You said something interesting. Already in 2022, it's close to being the second largest year in history. So it's 30.
Yeah, if you take into account the deals from April, we're already over 2020's, 9.26 billion. So.
Yeah. So definitely going to be the biggest year ever. Would you say? Can I say that?
I don't know. It's we got a ways to go, but I mean, there's the pace there that if it kept up at this pace, it definitely would be the biggest year ever.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's just kind of like, how do you look at it, right? In 2021, we jumped from 9.3 billion in 2020 total for the year to 30.9 billion in 2021. So right. 9.3 in 2020 to 30.9 in 2021. And so the question is, I don't think it's a question of whether 2022 is going to be bigger than 2021. It's just a question of, is it going to look anything like the exponential increase that we saw? Not literally or technically an exponential increase, but a very large, increase. Is it going to look as significant of an increase comparatively? And I don't know. We'll see. But it's going to be another big year.
Yeah. So there's some good news out there.
Yeah. I don't think we're at the peak oil moment yet.
Doesn't appear to be the case. And I think that what's interesting is that you're seeing, different types of solutions begin to attract investment. So, employee experience is certainly a lot of money flying into that. Recruitment, talent and learning, communications, low code, no code seems to be leveling off a little bit. You're seeing, a new class of HCM solutions begin to kind of come to market. A lot of investment in facilities or workspace, whether that is in person or virtual. So there's a lot of interesting areas of investment that the type of companies that are getting money now are very different than the types of companies that were getting investment, say, 5 years ago.
When you say investment in workspace, what do you mean by that? Is that what you said?
Well, I mean, I think that it's like where is work getting done? And I mean, that could be everywhere, everything from, in Zoom, or how are people collaborating in a hybrid work environment if they can't actually get in the same physical space. But even if they can get in the same physical space, I think that we're going to see co-working spaces have a new opportunity. As people, feel more comfortable going out. They maybe don't want to go to the office or can't go to the office because they don't live in the same geography, but they don't just want to work from home. And so, I think that we're starting to see some opportunity crop up in that category that was really hard hit over the past couple of years.
So just to be clear, the work tech investment numbers are not tracking like commercial property acquisition or, like stuff like that. You're talking about solutions that could include. So if, let's say WeWork got, $150 billion investment, would you count that in these numbers?
If it depends. I mean, right now, WeWork is actually looking to buy a real estate technology company. That article will actually be in the Work Tech Weekly on Friday. So they're sort of trying to become more of a technology company, but money that they're investing in real estate now, that's not accounted for in these numbers.
Yeah. Did you watch the WeWork movie with is it?
I have not watched that yet.
Is it Jared Leto or Jared Leto? Jared Leto.
Jared Leto.
I haven't seen it either. I was just curious if you have.
No, I'll probably end up watching it. I mean, there's that whole class of the Uber one and then the Elizabeth Holmes one, and so I'm going to pace myself. I'm actually spending more time watching the Lakers series. On
my God, so good.
Yeah, John C. Reilly is awesome, and there's so many great performances in that.
Well, we talked about how John C. Reilly got that role, right? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, that actually, it's interesting because that fractured the friendship between Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell wanted that role, he didn't get it, and so he basically was like, "I'm done with you."
Well, and Adam McKay. Yeah. So a lot of the, famous Will Ferrell movies that we all know and love were actually produced by Gary Sanchez Productions, and that's Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. So that doesn't exist anymore. And I was even watching over the weekend. The House came on, just regular television, and that's when Amy Poehler and Will Ferrell decided to open a casino to pay for their kids' college in their friend's home. And all of them are great. It's like none of them are going to be like huge blockbusters or whatever, but they just get better with time, And so I'm really sad that that's gone. But Adam McKay admitted in an interview, I think with the New York Times, that it was probably all his fault because he didn't tell Will Ferrell that he had cast John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly called him and was like, Hey, Will, just want to let you know, I got the role, man. I'm so excited. And Will Ferrell was like, what? And Adam McKay was like, yeah, John C. Reilly did the right thing. I did not. I'm an asshole. And so now there's no more Gary Sanchez Productions. Very sad.
So sad.
So going back to work tech, almost as important as Will Ferrell movies.
Yes, almost.
Yeah, almost. Just almost. There's also some interesting things going on with the characteristics of the deal, the deals. So the number of deals, the size of deals. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and so that was one of the things that jumped out at me is like where there were 150 deals in Q4, down a little bit from Q3's 159 deals, but Q1 195 deals. So you're seeing a lot higher deal volume. So there's a lot more money going into early stage companies. And so then, but there at the same time, you saw the number of $100 million transactions was up from last Q1, even if it was down from Q4 of last year. So there's still a lot of money going into the upper end of the market, but you're starting to see more money coming into startups kind of on the leading edge of some of these trends that we have seen play out in the workforce since 2020.
These deals are kind of going in beginning of the pipeline, at the end of the pipeline. There's more of them. They're smaller. But it's not like late stage companies aren't getting funded. It's not like early stage companies are not getting funded. What do you read into these numbers?
I think that, honestly, I think that Q1 typically is a slower quarter than the rest of the year.
Yeah.
A lot of times Q4 is going to be the biggest quarter. So the fact that there was, a $2.5 billion decline in investment doesn't really concern me that much, especially with the deal volume. I think that there's a lot of just kind of new ideas at play around enabling the hybrid workforce. Certainly a lot of money going into, hiring solutions that allow to companies to better facilitate remote hiring. A lot more in different kind of compliance needs in organizations. So, metaverse is starting to creep in terms of like, what are enterprises going to do about that? So you're seeing some small early stage startups get that kind of money, so there's definitely, we're at the leading edge of some trends that we're going to see really blow up in 3, 4, 5 years. But then there's also a lot of money going into trying to bet on the winners of kind of the current market cycle.
Yeah. Well, the thing, like what I kind of read into the overall picture of the numbers that you provided is that we're still in a very different market than we were in 2019 and 2020. And so 2019, $7.3 billion of total investment, 2020, $9.3 billion. Then you hit 2021 and it was $30.9 billion, right? So that was again, not technically an order of magnitude, but one of the, it was the biggest year ever and the biggest leap we've ever seen. And, we're already, at $8.4 billion, which eclipses 2019 with just the first quarter. If you include April, we're already past 2020, right? And so this year, whether it's higher or lower than 2021, is just going to be operating at a different level than, kind of like the pre-pandemic market, because I think what you saw was a big burst of investment in 2021 that was reflective of a lot of categories that were moving into, onto center stage because of our experiences during the pandemic. And it's still going. And so, the way that I look at this, and I think it's, kind of relevant to the next thing that we wanted to talk about is this market is still being made. And there are still tons of startups who are, better funded than they've ever been before, who are getting deals. There are mid-stage and late-stage, deals that are happening just to, kind of, flex the muscle of some of those market leaders in some of these segments. And, if you go back to like 2020, I think that, there were organizations, and we saw this during the global financial crisis, and we talk about it all the time, but there were organizations who, sensing uncertainty in the market, to put it mildly, kind of reverted to classic, MBA behavior and, cut expenses and pulled back and, that sort of thing. And we always say, hey, that's a great time for innovative brands, to really invest in, sales and marketing. And because there's less noise in the market, there's fewer people marketing. The costs go down a little bit, your share of voice goes up, and you control the narrative more. And so it gives you ability to really build your brand. We saw a lot of that happening. I just think about, Lattice, for instance, as an example of someone who really poured it on, during that period, and they're, growing like crazy, have a lot of investment, et cetera. But, one of the things that, I want to point out is that we're kind of past that period where there's uncertainty about whether or not you should be investing and, kind of driving your position forward in work tech. The market is clearly exploding. There's clearly a lot of evidence that's going to continue to grow, aggressively. Lots of investment coming in. And so, and on top of that, we don't have time to go into this in great detail, but we're in the middle of a new organizing principle, something that hasn't happened since we saw, kind of SaaS and cloud computing move to the forefront of people's consideration in tech markets, which resulted in the biggest moment of solution turnover in history. People were just kicking out stuff that wasn't in the cloud and buying stuff that was. And we're at the only other time that that's happened since then. The pandemic has implemented a new organizing principle. And what happens when new organizing principles come into play is that the field dynamic changes. And specifically what I mean is that every field is comprised of multiple players in the field. You know, you've got your people who buy stuff, you've got your vendors who sell software, you have your consultants, you have your other professional services companies, you have the media, you have influencers, you've got all these people and they all exist in the field. And there are leaders in each one of those areas, right? Multiple leaders, right? And what happens when a new organizing principle comes in is it disrupts the fields and new leaders emerge. And some leaders are able to maintain, some current leaders are able to maintain their current position if they adhere to the new organizing principle, and others just kind of blink out of existence or, really get hurt. And this is definitely, that moment where we're going to see probably a period of solution turnover that's bigger than we saw during, kind of the run-up transition from on-premise to SaaS and cloud and all that stuff. And so, my view is, if you were one of those companies who smartly invested in, 2020 and 2021, but especially 2020, and all the companies that we talked to who had that strategy have benefited significantly from it. Mm-hmm. But now's not a time to let up because everyone's kind of coming in and, trying to catch up. And so those organizations are going to have to work harder to separate themselves even further as this market turns over. Just a quick aside. I say all the time, it's like Salesforce was founded in 1999. And I think they started construction on the tallest skyscraper in San Francisco in 2013 and was completed in 2018. So it took 5 years to build. But that's how quickly market leadership can change. And just a funny little side. When that tower was built, it became the tallest building over the Transamerica Pyramid, the iconic San Francisco building. And so when you think about the significance, I know it's just a skyscraper, but when you think about the significance of a company that was founded in 1999 and, a relatively short amount of time later has the tallest skyscraper eclipsing the Transamerica Pyramid, that's how fast markets can change. Might seem slow to some, but that's pretty fast because think about all the things that had to happen before that. And so if you're one of those organizations that, kind of developed a lead or, gained a lot of leadership momentum against, even other larger companies because of, bravery exhibited in sales and marketing during 2020 and 2021, now is not the time to let up. It's actually the time to double down. And then the other organizations who threaten to be disrupted, either because they don't adhere to the organizing principle. Step one is figure out that the organizing principle is at play, which I would argue is, the event, of course, was the pandemic, very similar to the invention of the World Wide Web. And I understand all the nuanced differences between the two, but they're just big events that change every aspect of society, right? And then there's a response to those. The response to the World Wide Web was software as a service and cloud computing and technology segments. I believe it's decentralization now. That's, kind of the outcome of, the pandemic. And so anyone who's fighting against decentralization in contexts such as everyone needs to come back to the office, everyone needs to do something through this central, process, everyone, needs to work through central finance, everyone, et cetera. That's probably on the wrong side of the organizing principle. So step one is figure out that the organizing principle is driving towards decentralization. And step two is you need to catch up because a lot of companies, outspent, outmaneuvered, outbraved, some leading organizations who pulled back on spend during 2020. And so this market is still white hot. And it's not a time to do anything other than, extend your lead or try to catch up if you're behind because things are going to move very quickly from this point forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And I also think that this, for work tech companies, it's even greater than just, a chance to flip the field in terms of market share or, surpass competitors. I think that this is also about access to talent because, what we're seeing play out really across the industry is there's not enough talent to go around. We've got a lot of deals that are coming in that, maybe the initial conversation was, you know what, we're just going to hire for this position internally. We just brought someone on board. And then literally like 2 weeks later, they'll call us back and said, hey, we had 3 people leave, including that person we just hired.
Yeah.
Can you help us out? And so there is definitely a marketing labor crunch going on. And I think that, you know, companies that maybe are going to follow the kind of the typical MBA playbook of cut expenses, you know, let 10% of your staff go, are going to find themselves doing immensely more harm than maybe they even realized by just kind of like following that conventional kind of like playbook that is more from the centralized worldview that we've seen really kind of go out of date in the world of business.
Yeah, I mean, that is a long topic, and I'd love to, you know, talk more about it. But, you know, the reality is, I said step one is like get with it with the, you know, organizing principle of decentralization. But, you know, step one before step one is you've got to fix your employee experience. And, you know, every organization in work tech, it's much more critical that your employee experience is really, really outstanding because of, you know, the market that we're in. But also, you know, it has an impact on everything like go-to-market strategy and your ability to execute it because of, you know, not being able to hold on to talent. And I believe that a lot of organizations have to be willing to lose money right now in order to create a great employee experience and to retain talent because it will set them up so well for future success. You know, to your point, when you're talking about deals coming in, you're talking about deals coming into the Star Conspiracy and what people hire us for. And a lot of these deals are becoming business continuity deals where, you know, we're basically working with a client that we've worked with for a long time. We have nearly 0% turnover. We've lost 2 people, I think, in the last, you know, 3 years or something like that. And therefore, a lot of the people on our team know, you know, more about where stuff is in terms of the progression of a project or, you know, a strategy for an organization than internal team members for a client because they've just had so much turnover. And that's a real sign. We've seen this before when the labor market gets tight. It's a real sign when people become reliant on us for, you know, in a lot of cases, like execution oriented stuff, which we're, you know, kind of typically hang out at the strategic, you know, end of the spectrum, just because they can't resource it to get it done. That's a sign of how much friction you have to expect in terms of getting the people that you need to execute your sales and marketing strategy. And so if part of your sales and marketing strategy is not creating an amazing EX, you know, you're probably not going to be able to execute that strategy. And you definitely don't want to do anything to make it a lot worse, like creating a sense of instability and uncertainty for, you know, people broadly across the organization by doing layoffs based on, you know, whatever you think, you know, today's picture looks like, because the future, you know, fundamentally is not only stable, but growing aggressively.
Well, and I think you're also touching on a really important point of how you think about sales and marketing as, or should be thinking about sales and marketing as an experience that's linked to the employee experience, that your entire like CX model isn't just what happens after, you know, a prospect signs on the dotted line and you start onboarding them. It's starting from the first moment they touch your brand. What is the experience that your brand is conveying before they ever meet you or meet someone from your company? And so I think that there is this shift in thinking about marketing as an experience that I don't think that there is universal acceptance and awareness of that dynamic going on in the market.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, we've got like 7 topics that we need to set up other conversations about because, you know, it brings into question what is an experience, how our experience is created, how many, you know, moments within an experience, which is kind of the atomic unit of experience, right? Or these moments, how many of them are actually critical in order to create a great overall experience. Because the reality is, you know, that's not the way the human brain works. It doesn't catalog every moment that we experience. It holds on to peak moments and transition moments like beginnings and ends and stuff like that to aid in future decision making. So you don't have to remember every moment you had when you're trying to decide whether to do something again. You can just highlight, you know, kind of the tagged memories But it's actually a lot easier to get to a great employee experience than people might think, because you don't have to fix, quote, air quotes, fix everything. You just really need to focus in on some moments that are really defining moments for that experience. But yeah, the interrelatedness between, we've been talking about this for years. A lot of people have, we're not the only ones, but the interrelatedness between employee experience and customer experience and shareholder experience has never been more evident than it is today, because you just got all of these forces converging from, a tight labor market to a difficult labor environment, to all kinds of stuff. And the companies who are succeeding and doing well are the ones who, and I'm talking about even restaurants, man. I've got a couple of restaurants near my house. One has a great employee experience. It's called Lucille's. And they've had the same bartenders and staff and everything since I moved here many years ago. And they didn't really, suffer as much, during the pandemic as some other restaurants did. I've talked to their bartenders, obviously, and some other folks there about what kept them there. And, they've got a long list of things about, why Lucille's is great. You go down the street to a restaurant that will remain unnamed, and, you can't even get food to the table, or, it's not there when you want to go pick it up because they can't keep trained staff on. And it's very clear that the employee experience is terrible. And so, you just take that very easy to, understand example and apply it to, tech companies, work tech companies, and you get the same result. It's hard to make a hamburger, or a piece of software or whatever, if you don't have, people who care about doing it well, as part of your business.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, why don't we keep it a little bit shorter today than we usually do? And let's get back maybe a couple of times next week and talk about some of these other topics, because there's so much interesting stuff to talk about. But big headlines, huge quarter, down from Q4 of 2021, but up significantly from Q1 of 2021. And looks like we're still operating in some rare air in terms of the amount of investment flowing into work tech. And, the takeaway from that should be, this market is expanding. We're probably at the front edge of major expansion in work tech, and a big moment of solution turnover where, market share is going to be reshuffled and the entire field dynamic is going to be disrupted. And so you either have to, really protect your lead and extend it right now, or work hard to catch up.
Exactly. Stay positive.
Exactly. And stay positive. All right, man. It's good talking to you, Steve.
Good talking to you. Let's do it again next week.
Sounds good to me.